Hey folks, well, I lied. In the previous video I said I wasn't going to show you me doing the second skin. I thought, you know what, for just being complete and thorough, I am going to show it to you. So here I am going through using the soldering iron and pulling off the strips from both the second skin and the bottom skin you see here. I've sped it up quite a lot because you don't need to see it. I mean, you understand what I'm doing. Just here's proof that I did it. And I did. And I still say that you don't need to do it. But, like I said, I don't know. Here I am going through and doing the dimpling. This goes really fast on the bottom skin because it's a nice flat area, real easy. I do have to move the DRDD2 back and forth left to right side of the table a couple times just because it's easier to handle that way. And that's what I ended up doing here with the skin. Remember I told you it went a lot faster on the second skin because I had figured out how to do it, and it was just a matter of moving things around and getting it done. And sure enough, it goes real quick. Case in point, it's done. Here I'm going through and I'm dimpling all of the ribs and getting those prepped for paint or priming rather, which I will be doing. I'm still using a rattle can primer. Some of the folks mentioned a Napa product, which is a self-etching aluminum primer, and I cannot think of the name of it for the life of me right now. I'll get that to you later, that I will be using. And I also have some other primers that I'm trying. At this point, the back of my plane has like 4 different primers on it. I have yet to find one that I like. All of them seem to just kind of scratch off. Like you spray them on, light or heavy, doesn't matter, and they just come right off, even if you prep the surface by roughing it up or whatever. So I just haven't found a primer that I like yet. A lot of people use a 2-part epoxy primer that uses like an AKZO or something like that. It uses a spray system, and I don't have a spray booth. Now, the hanger is coming. I've got pictures of that coming to show you. I'm already moved in actually, but that's for a later video. I will probably be creating a spray booth in there and doing a lot of my priming of the wings and whatnot in that when the time comes. So here you see me going through and dimpling all of the stiffeners, and my back was starting to hurt, so I sat down. Much easier to do it from sitting position, I'll tell you that much. Lots of little holes though. There's tons and tons of them, and you know them well at this point because you drilled them all. Or in this case, I drilled them all. So going through and dimpling all those, which is necessary. So once I get all that done, I get the DRDT out of the way, and I begin working on the bell crank housing parts. This is the part basically that not only houses the controls, but also I think it's where the battery sits, if I'm not mistaken. And if you look very carefully in the bottom left, you can see that there is a fly in my beer. No matter what I try, I've got a little piece of aluminum on top of that glass, and still a fly managed to get in there. Yep, that happened. Ruined a good beer, too. Here I'm deburring and cleaning up that bell crank housing plate, which is the primary piece for the whole bell crank stuff. And now I'm beginning working on that the lever that is used to control the elevator. This is the primary piece and why this whole system is called the bell crank. This is the bell crank or elevator bell crank assembly. Basically, it's a lever. It assembles very similarly to some of the parts that you did previously on the elevator, and it's just basically a bearing placed between 2 metal plates and clecoed together. I mean, not clecoed, but riveted together. Clecoed initially, then riveted. Pretty important piece, actually, if you look at the overall assembly of where it goes and how the back of the plane works. This one's pretty much up there at the top. And as you can see, I'm using my favorite tool, the squeezer. I'm not using it here, but one thing I will mention is I did go ahead and get the 4-inch or 4.5-inch no-hole yoke, and I have found it extremely useful. I have to admit, yeah, you should get it too. It's one of those things, it's $120 or whatever, but it really makes your life easy because sometimes you just can't get to parts without it, and it's really great. Here I'm assembling the various little bits and pieces onto the bell crank plate on the bottom, the primary piece. And then once that's done, the housing and assembly is all done. By the way, you'll see this is green. So that's one of the many prime colors that I have used. I think at this point I have a dark green, a light green, and a gray as different primed colors. It's meaningless, by the way. Oh, there, look, that's there. That piece that yoke I'm using now is the 4-incher that I was talking about. It doesn't have a hole in the top, so you only have to actually use one of your little dimple tools. Very useful. It's got a nice long throw, which makes things handy. But here we go. We're assembling some ribs there. And once we get those ribs all assembled up, that will begin the process. I think I take those out and prime those the next day. I think this was late at night. I'm not sure. Sometimes these days all run together. Once I get done with that particular rib, I move on to the next day, and here I am, and this is 10-18, and I'm working on the 10-12 A and B bulkheads, which is the whole rudder stop and the very tail of the plane, basically just prior to the vertical stabilizer and rudder assembly. That's this. This is the end of the plane. So here I am putting it all together. And it was a pretty day today, I seem to remember. I think the wife was out working in the yard, so every once in a while I'd turn and talk to her. I'd try to cut most of that out. Right here I'm working on the, that bulkhead that I was talking about, the stiffener that goes on it, and then the 2 horizontal stabilizer attachment bars. Those things are thoroughly riveted to the back of this plane, and not only are they riveted, but later on you actually bolt them in place too. I guess they were serious about making sure those don't come off, which is probably for the best considering it is the horizontal stabilizer we're talking about here. And then the nut plate attachments and a couple other pieces. There's lots of little bits that go on here, all very important, and this is what I'm working on. Nothing too hard, pretty simple actually. Again, this is 10-18. Which of course means the next step is 10-19, and step 1 of 10-19 is actually riveting the nut plates onto those little knockouts on the skins, and I do that later. I skip step 1 and I move right on to step 2, and that's what I'm doing here, is putting those horizontal stabilizer attachment angles and the bulkhead doublers onto this particular rib. And then once I get that done, I move on to each of the next ribs and rivet all those suckers in place. I don't know if the videos are going too slow, too fast. Like, if you guys could leave me some feedback, do you guys want more detail, less detail? I mean, some people a lot of people don't actually watch these videos all the way through, so it makes me think there's probably already too much detail. I'm not sure. Anyways, so that's what's going on here. This is, like I said, 10-19, and this is where you assemble all of the ribs. So here in a second, you'll see me pull the other parts out for the main rib, which is the 1006 rib, and put those together. And I get the little plastic pieces. You got some little washers, bushings, like snap bushings that you have to snap in a couple places. Oh, here we go. This is the 1006 right here. Good times. And then this is what I was talking about, how I went back and did step 1 later. I just didn't feel like dealing with the skins. I think this is the next day, so I'm in a much better mental state. And going back through here and get those little cover plates, or nut plates rather, and get those riveted on the both skins. And I use the DRDT2 over there to actually put the little dimples in the rivet plates themselves, but I hand dimpled the holes in the skins because I did not do them like I should have when you dimple the skin. So just let that be a lesson. Be sure to dimple those as well when you're dimpling the skins. I was unclear when I did it, so I didn't do it. But no big deal. I knew I had the hand dimpler. All right, and with that, we have the big day. So this is the next day again, and this is the beginning of the final assembly. So this is 10-20, and not the total final assembly, but I mean the assembly of the cone itself, not putting all the parts on. You know what I mean. Anyways, so it tells you basically to go back and reassemble it exactly as you did in 10-7 and 10-9. And that's step one. Do over, right? Okay, so you go through and you do everything just like you had done previously. And I remember this kind of sucked. It was like, God, I don't want to have to do this again. But yeah, it went quick. It really did. It was another hot day, though. It was a very pretty day, but hot. And I've got my fan going. I have bought a much bigger fan for my hangar because, poof, boy, it gets warm. Easy. No, nothing difficult since you'd already done it. You just have the added bonus now of having everything dimpled, which means they actually line up a little easier. And then once you flip things over, it actually makes assembly even easier still. So it went quick, all things considered. I went back and clecoed every fourth hole on the other side because remember I was running out of clecos last time, and I knew in order to stretch them, I was going to have to, basically spread them out quite a bit. And so I did that from the beginning this time, so it wasn't a surprise. And I did the same thing on this side, with the exception of the round areas towards the bottom there. I put a cleco in every hole there, but anywhere that was a straightaway, I clecoed every fourth holes, which is what you're going to see me doing here. I figure you didn't need to see me doing it on the other side since it's the same as what you just watched. And then it's a matter of putting that piece in that we just finished working on, the plate down at the bottom, and then the horizontal stabilizer attachment bar piece, and then the very tail piece behind it. Yay! And here I'm inserting the rudder stop skin stiffeners in there, and I put a cleco in every one of those holes. I figured those are kind of important. And now I'm putting the longerons on. And this was another one of those areas where I was like, man, this just all kind of goes together. It was one of those, another epiphany moment where I really appreciated the work that Vans put into this and how easy they made all this stuff. And it just goes together like IKEA, right? Put tab A in slot B, which is pretty handy. And then after reading the instructions a little more, I decided to go ahead and put the 1006 front rib on. This is the rib that you're not going to do much with. I mean, you're going to put it in place. It's there for moral support only, just about, because you're not going to actually do any attachments or any riveting to the skin until you do the fuselage. And so now begins the process that takes forever. So this is the actual driving of all the rivets in the stiffeners. This is step 2, and I'll tell you what, this took like 4 days. Yeah, and I'm not gonna talk over all of this. I'm just gonna let it go. Later on, you'll see my wife comes out. She actually helps me. This does become a 2-person job very quickly. When you work on the bottom, there's just no way you're gonna be able to reach around and drive those rivets with, it's just too far apart, unless maybe you leave one skin off or something and do it that way. I don't know. At that point, I would worry about imparting a twist. So you're just better off with a second person, and you'll see us come out and do that here shortly. So anyways, guys, I'm gonna just let it run. Not gonna bother talking over it anymore. Feel free to watch it or skip it or whatever, but it's just a lot of me driving rivets. I have sped this up 1,000 times, and it still takes several minutes. So, yeah, just know that this is what you have to look forward to when you do this. Anyway, guys, I really appreciate it. Thanks for sticking around as long as you have. If you have any comments, leave them down below. I promise to answer. Thanks, everybody. Bye.